or David or L. Roth, and then he has Banana Fana Fofana, meaning like that, funny name game song. But people took it seriously. I thought that was absolutely ridiculous.
Well, I honestly wasn't sure because you could see Dave doing something crazy like that, just, for the heck of it.
That's true. But I tell you when you know it's for sure is when the New York Times doesn't change his name when they write his name.
Well, that's true.
Yeah,
right.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
That's true.
So, speaking of Wolfgang, Wolf has been going bizarre on social media. I mean, I shouldn't say bizarre, but he's been going wild, like answering everybody's comments, which is surprising. Obviously, very different from the traditional Van Halen way, which is to clam up and say nothing for years on end. But that's okay. Wolf's his own man. This is what's weird. So 3 years ago, Wolf played Eruption in honor of its anniversary, and some guy said, nailed it, so cool. And some other guy named Randy said, nailed it, listen to it again, I hear hesitation. It was good, but it didn't nail it. And then all of a sudden, some guy responds, nope, it's just my opinion. But at the 14 and 15 second mark, he noticed there was some sort of mistake, and the guy mentions it 3 years later. Wolf got obsessive and made a comment about it. He says, well, you sure as hell hesitated for 3 years, a response there. What the fuck, dude? So, that was kind of weird. I don't know exactly what he was doing here, but he made a comment on it. I don't know why he's just not focusing on his album, you know what I mean? But it's so strange. So then, speaking of his album, one guy named John Rogers asked him on Instagram, I hope David makes a cameo on your album, fingers crossed. And then Wolf responded, he isn't. But we all know that. No one is on Wolf's album. Eddie, Alex, no one is on Wolf's album. Now, also, Wolfie got involved in this scuffle in a DM thing with some guy. He said one guy had asked another guy who was the biggest personality to slide into your DMs and yell at you. And one guy said, Wolf disagreed with me passionately about hockey. And Wolf jumped in to say, what? I'd never gone out of my way to privately DM and yell at someone. Some guy named James said that Wolf disagreed with him passionately about hockey. And Wolf jumped in and said, what? I've never gone out of my way to privately DM and yell at someone. I don't know anything about hockey, let alone an opinion about hockey or something like that.
No, he knows about hockey. He just said he had never DM'd anybody.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah.
About that or anything.
Right. And James claims it wasn't quite a DM. He says the Wild were playing the Kings, and I made an offhand comment you responded to. It was completely respectful and non-yelly, but I had to zazz it up for the people reading it. And Wolf said, haha, okay, well, thanks for making me seem like a dick, I guess. But I was worried not enough people hated me, so let's pump up the numbers. Zazz it up, homie. I don't know, Wolf is getting very sensitive on Instagram here. I mean,
yeah, but the guy did flat out lie that,
he did.
Wolf had DM'd him about something. And for that, I don't blame Wolf speaking out and saying, this guy's full of crap.
Yeah.
And the guy was full of crap. Turned out it wasn't that way. So zazzing it up is one thing. Flat out lying is another.
That's true. Now, here's another thing. So Wolf is all over the place. He is swatting everybody down. So Wolf snapped a little bit at Ultimate Classic Rock, who wrote a story stating, Wolfgang Van Halen said his inability to tour was due to the coronavirus pandemic has prevented the release of his long-awaited solo album. Wolf tweeted, what a joke. This dude is the worst. This is what he originally stated. It said, the state of the world has really thrown a wrench into how I saw this releasing, given that no touring is able to happen until all this blows over. But I have a few ideas that I'm really excited about, so stay tuned. That was his comment, and I guess they wrote an article based on that comment. I don't know. Look, I mean, I'm assuming the pandemic must have had some sort of impact on it releasing. He did say he couldn't tour and all that stuff. And on speaking of his album, he also released another clip with some bass and drums and from his upcoming solo album. And here's a taste. It all sounds good. That bass is more aggressive than anything he's done with Van Halen. It sounds much more like Billy Sheehan style, actually, and I'm loving that. I can't wait for this record, to be honest. And it's not a Van Halen album, and it shouldn't be judged as one for sure. Now, Wolf issued this statement. Okay, things are getting really intense here. Someone asked him, why do you even answer these guys? Why do you come back at these people? And he says, that's a great question. Being who I am, I think people at the least will be interested in what my work will sound like, which is very nice. But on the other hand, if it's not exactly what they want to hear, or if it doesn't try to sound Van Halen-y enough for them, they'll hate me and won't give me the time of day. I'm fully prepared for a wave of hate when my music releases because it won't be what people think it'll be. I'm not trying to be my father, I'm trying to be me. So, I do feel for him in this regard because, there is a lot of pressure. He's in an area his father has conquered incredibly, but no one should compare him to Eddie. He's not Eddie. Eddie's a one of a kind. Does he have Eddie's genes? Yeah, he's a talented fucking kid. So good for Wolf to stand up for himself. Now, I, for one, am not expecting a Van Halen album, but rather a quality music album. Eddie Van Halen is Eddie Van Halen. Wolfgang Van Halen is Wolfgang Van Halen. So it's time to really kind of put your balls out there, Wolf. That's for sure. So I suggest to you, Wolf, take a tip from Aerosmith and let the music do the talking. What do you think, Dave?
I do. Well, first of all, I always laugh when you call him a kid because the guy's like in his late 20s.
Well, to
now,
you and I, he is.
Well, I guess that's true. But hey, just put out the album and let us hear it. I wonder how many people, I don't mean to sound negative about this, but I wonder how many people actually care at this point.
Let's be honest. I think there's a curiosity factor for sure. I also think it depends on what it sounds like, what it's going to catch on to. Let's be honest. Van Halen releases an album right now. That's even hard to sell. It just is. The world is in such a weird state. Yes, there's a fan base already out there. Yes, there's guaranteed sales because it's Van Halen. Sure. Of course. I think some of that fan base will, be drawn to Wolf, but I also think that, it all depends on press and stuff like Wolf has got to be able to get out there and really throw down. Not the album. I'm sure he's working his ass off on that album, and I'm sure it's great. I'm talking about selling it. Selling it's a whole other story because that's something that not a lot of people know how to do. But certain people do know how to do, like when you know how to do press, when you know how to get out there. Mike Portnoy is great at selling his stuff and getting out there and being vocal. He's a personality on top of a drummer and a writer and a member of a band. You got to fend for yourself and know how to be that kind of business marketing guy for yourself in addition to being a great musician. I don't know if Wolf has those skills or not. I don't know if he's prepared to do that. That's a whole other skill set. I don't doubt his musicianship. I'm sure he's got all of that. Here's the other thing. So then he also made another statement. He says, if you want me to delve into the psychology of it all, I think after getting so much negative criticism my whole career from people who have already decided they don't like me, being able to turn people's negativity into sarcastic and funny jokes makes me happy and is almost therapeutic in a way. So when people are like, why do you give these people the time of day? Take the high road. Don't do this to yourself. Just ignore it. Or shit like that. I feel like the comedy is just as much of a legit way of dealing with it, and it is the way I like to do it. So yeah, it's a funny Instagram content, in my opinion at least. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. So he did.
That's an interesting perspective.
Yeah. He's from a different generation. He's younger. Look, you just do what you do. You got to let the haters hate and just turn them off. It gives them power if you give them attention and don't feed into it. That's the only other question I say to anybody. I don't care how old you are. Don't feed into it. But listen, if that's the way you choose to do it, that's cool too. It just seems a little exhausting, but I'm 50 and he's 29, so I don't know. He's got that energy to do so. But what do you make of all this incredible activity? He spends a lot of time answering people.
He is. I don't know. Maybe he's trying to answer fans or just address things, or he's got the time to do it now because he's not doing much of anything else.
Yeah.
He likes being on social media. I'm just really curious about his album, and, I hope he figures out what he's going to do with that, and he puts it out soon.
Here's my few questions for you, Wolf. Number 1, is this coming out in 2020 or 2021? Number 2, are you going to tour behind it? If so, who will be your backing band? And number 3, does Van Halen still exist? That's all. I think that answers, some quick, easy basics. Speaking of basics, the Red Rocker, who is the star of this episode, okay? He is backtracking. Talk about a guy who can't stop his own mouth. So, and we're not even talking about David Lee Roth. After Mr. Sammy Hagar did his Rolling Stone interview that we talked about last episode, Sammy took to social media to explain and clarify some of his comments. The Red Rocker claims that he did an interview on May 8th and that they have been staying home and the curve was flattening at the time when he made this interview. But when he was asked to get back on tour, he said, yeah, not too soon. I want to make sure everything is not escalating. When it's declining and it seems like it's going away. But he said he'd go out before a vaccine. But he said, big picture, it's about getting back to work in a safe and responsible way and getting the economy rolling again. I will do my part. I employ 200 people directly, and when we tour, I employ even more. Like everything today, it's a wait and see over the next few months, but we remain cautiously optimistic that with the right improvements and safety measures in place, we might be able to play shows this year.
I'm not holding my breath on that one.
I know, but I got something to tell you here. First of all, funny enough, Valerie tweeted, "Oh, Sammy," to his comments here. And Wolf tweeted a weird tweet, which I didn't understand. There was this graphic of this guy that said health, H-E-L-T-H. I don't know what that means. I have no idea. So
somebody will explain it to us.
Yeah, somebody will explain it to us. So Sammy was catching heat for some of his comments. He says, there may be a time when we have to sacrifice. I mean, how many people die on this earth every day? I have no idea. I'm sorry to say, but we all got to die, man. So some of these are the comments people got upset for. I'd rather personally get sick and even die if that's what it takes. Or if some of us have to sacrifice on that, okay. So, I mean, look, can't take what Sam says directly to heart. He doesn't mean anything by it. He's a good guy. He's not trying to cause any problems. He would never want harm for anyone. Look at Sam. Read his lyrics. He's not that guy. He's not Ted Nugent. So, I mean, it just, nothing.
He just opens up his mouth without thinking.
Yeah, he just runs a little. He gets a little nutty. But here's the thing. This is interesting, Dave. So, Sam has a gig. He has a gig lined up for September 5th of this year. Now, here's the weird part. It hasn't been canceled, and it says here that it's addressing even the COVID situation. Now, he has a gig at Thunder Valley Resort Amphitheater in Lincoln, California on September 5th, 2020, with The Circle. Showtime at 7:30. This is at the Thunder Valley Casino Resort Amphitheater. A statement from the Thunder Valley Casino Resort. In light of current events, it's important to note that the health and wellness of guests, performers, and team members remains Thunder Valley's #1 priority. To ensure an enjoyable entertainment experience, seating capacity will be reduced and property-wide safety measures will be implemented. Some of the safety measures currently include requiring all guests to wear face masks and have their temperature screened before entry. So they seem like they're moving forward with this. We shall see, though. What do you think?
That'll be interesting. I hope they do a better job than Mitch Malloy and Great White did, apparently.
Oh, God, what happened there?
Oh, you didn't hear? So they did a show, but nobody was wearing masks and people weren't social distancing.
Oh, Lord.
There was a headline like, Great White does it again, puts people at risk at another show.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So it was not a flattering article for our buddy Mitch.
Hey, wait, I got a bulletin. This just in. Van Halen's Lost Boy still lost.
I think as far as the Sammy show, we'll see what happens with the casino. If the numbers start skyrocketing again, they're not going to do anything. If he has the show, great, but honestly, I'm not holding my breath that thing's going to happen.
That's right. We'll see what happens. Speaking of Sam, another item here is Sammy actually joined Vic Johnson in person. We also want to wish Vic Johnson a happy belated birthday. He just celebrated a birthday. The two of them were jamming on Revolution by the Beatles. Vic had a bandana on his face. Sammy had a bandana on his head. Nothing on his face, and he was right on top of Vic. So no mask.
Come on, dude, 6 feet.
No mask. Nah, he's wearing a bandana on his head. Looked like he was a member of the Grateful Dead. This wasn't as good as the lockdown sessions, for sure. This was a little sloppy and a little impromptu, but there was some guy on the side, but I couldn't tell who it was. I don't know what that was all about. You see that guy, Dave?
Yeah, I couldn't. I was like, whatever.
Who knows? Anyway, more news. Ted Templeman came out of the woodwork and did an interview with Spin Magazine. Jesus Christ. He wouldn't even go on Eddie Trunk. We couldn't get him on our podcast, but I didn't even know Spin Magazine existed. Jesus. So who knew?
I guess he'll do print interviews, but I guess he won't do.
Yeah, we'll see.
In person.
Well, I offered to do an interview with Ted where we send him the questions and I read his answers, but unfortunately that was met with persona non grata. Here are some of the Van Halen highlights, which I sifted through for you lovely people. The